I had always trusted her. My wife, Sophia. Stunning, sharp-witted, and now a backstabber. I thought our life together was solid, but she had been scheming behind my back with an arms dealer, plotting to kill me. Andrew Hawthorne, the man I was supposed to protect us from, had become her lover. They figured I wouldn't catch on, assumed I was too weak or too distracted. They didn't realize I'm a former Navy SEAL. Now it's my turn. I'm coming for them. And my revenge will be quick, brutal, and final. They won't see it coming. This isn't just about revenge. It's about tearing apart everything they've built. I took a moment to lean against a stone pillar, trying to look like just another relaxed passerby as I observed the bustling crowd of shoppers. They rushed past, buried in their phones or sipping overpriced drinks, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside me. The weight of my concealed sidearm pressed reassuringly against my side, a familiar comfort after weeks spent in Dubai, where all I had to rely on were my instincts and training. My skills were still razor-sharp. Working in cybersecurity had honed my attention to detail, making me even more dangerous. After some time, I sat down at a table in the food court, an empty soda cup in front of me to blend in. But I wasn't just there to kill time. I needed a quiet spot to process what I had just uncovered. Anger coursed through me, making it hard to stay still. Years of discipline kept my exterior calm, though inside, I was raging. Things had spiraled out of control, but I knew at least one thing for certain. Sophia and her lover, Andrew Hawthorne, the notorious arms dealer known as the Shadow, had made a serious mistake. Just thinking about them made my jaw clench. They had clearly forgotten I used to be a SEAL before I moved into cybersecurity. I had faced enemies far worse than them, and now it looked like I had two more to take down. If they were truly coming after me, they were getting sloppy. Arms dealers don't normally make this kind of mess, especially not with someone like me, a former SEAL who now protects top-level digital information. They had underestimated the wrong man. I pulled out a cheap, prepaid phone I had picked up from a nearby kiosk. The guy who sold it to me didn't seem to buy my story about a banking issue, but for $200 cash, I got the phone and 3 hours of call time. I didn't care if he reported me to someone higher up. He could sense something was off, and honestly, he was right. But it didn't matter now. I probably wouldn't even use half the minutes. I fished out a torn business card from my wallet and keyed in the number for K2 Executive Services. A woman's voice answered, direct, no nonsense. I did my best to keep my voice steady. I need help. My wife is in danger, I said, but the line went dead before I could say more. Frustrated, I leaned back and closed my eyes. I didn't know where else to turn. Maybe I'd have to handle this on my own. Whatever was going to happen, I had to be ready. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. It contained nothing but a link. I figured I had nothing left to lose and clicked it. The phone immediately began downloading an app. In moments, an icon with the letters K2 appeared. I tapped it, and the phone initiated a call. A distorted voice, almost like it was underwater, answered, K2 Executive Services. Hold your phone at arm's length and look at the screen, the voice instructed. I followed the steps, and the screen flashed as it took a photo of my face. My reflection lingered for a moment. I looked pale, probably from shock and rage. Then the woman on the line spoke again. Name, please. Ethan Corwin. There was a brief silence. I could feel her checking my details. What's your current status? I'm fine, but I need help fast. What's the situation? My wife's involved with Andrew Hawthorne, an arms dealer. They're leaking sensitive information I once had access to. This needs to be stopped. I was suddenly greeted by hold music, an odd, almost inappropriate tune given the situation. After what felt like an eternity, the voice returned. Thank you for holding. We have someone nearby who can assist. Go to the south entrance of the mall and wait near the men's restroom. Someone will meet you within 30 minutes. I might not have that long. They could be coming for me right now. If that's the case, the contact will assist immediately. Do you need medical attention? No. I'm ready to act. The call abruptly ended, leaving me with a knot in my gut. I stood up from the table, doing my best to walk calmly and blend in with the holiday crowd. The south entrance was about a quarter-mile away, deep within the mall. As I left the food court, I checked behind me. No signs of anyone tailing me. I had a small window, but I wasn't going to relax. Not yet. I passed by rows of clothing stores, shoe shops, and food stands, keeping my focus sharp. Nearly 20 minutes later, I finally spotted the restroom sign up ahead. Just as I got close, a strong hand gripped my right arm tightly. A man walked by with two kids in bright coats, promising them hot chocolate as he ushered them along. "Keep moving, Mr. Corwin," he said, his voice carrying a slight accent, Eastern European maybe. I glanced at him, noticing his sharp black suit and long coat. He didn't strike me as one of Hawthorne's men, but when he let his coat shift, I caught sight of a small gun tucked away. A memory flashed. It was him. I'd seen him during that unexpected incident outside my house. "It's you, Ethan," he said, his tone calm but firm. "Yeah, it's me. Just keep walking. I don't want trouble here," I replied, my voice low. "But I won't hesitate if you force my hand." We fell silent as we passed a young girl, slim, wearing a dark coat and carrying a bright purple backpack. Her hair was tucked under a light purple cap, and she was entirely focused on her phone. I was impressed. They caught up to me quicker than I anticipated. "You guys move fast," I muttered. "We set up facial recognition cameras on the bridge a few months back for a different job. Lucky for us, they were still active. I saw your car in the parking lot." He shrugged as another family walked by, their kids visibly tired and stressed. Even in my best condition, there were too many people around to make a move without causing chaos. "Just my luck." "Huh," he said with a casualness that felt unsettling. He seemed polite, considering the situation. I was too exhausted to overthink my next move. He led me toward a hallway near the bathrooms, his pace calm but deliberate. We reached a corner, and that's when time began to run out. He shoved me against the wall and drew his gun, the click of metal echoing in the narrow space. Before I could react, a loud crack filled the air. He stumbled, his steps shaky, before collapsing to the ground. Behind him stood the girl with the purple backpack, gripping a heavy wrench. Her face was eerily blank, her stance calm, like she'd done this before. She glanced at me, then down at the man sprawled on the floor. Without a word, she balanced the wrench on her shoulder and crouched to check his pulse, her movements efficient and emotionless. In one swift motion, she pulled the wrench out of sight, back into her backpack. She rifled through his pockets, retrieved his wallet, and slipped it into a silver envelope she produced from nowhere. Next, she removed the battery from his phone and tossed it into a nearby trash bin before sealing the phone and the envelope too. Then, she stood up and extended her hand toward me, her expression serious. "Come with me if you want to stay alive," she said deadpan. I stared at her for a moment, unsure of what to make of this strange rescue. A sly smile spread across her face. "I've always wanted to say that. But seriously, let's check if you're hurt." "No injuries, just a lot of pent-up anger and a thirst for revenge," I replied, my voice steady, but the fury behind it unmistakable. She gave a small nod, pulling out a compact first aid kit from her backpack. "Good. You'll need to be at your best for what's coming." She paused, her tone softening slightly. "I'm your K2 contact. Name's Reese. Nice to meet you, Reese. But we should probably get moving before more of Hawthorne's people show up." She smiled again, but this time it was sharper, fiercer. "Oh, don't worry. We're not just running. We're going to take the fight straight to them." As we left the mall, I told Reese everything about Sophia's betrayal, the stolen information being sold to Hawthorne, and the danger I now faced. With every detail I revealed, I could see her anger rising, her expression hardening, mirroring my own. "So, what's the plan?" she asked as we reached a car in the parking garage. It was a standard, unremarkable vehicle, exactly what we needed. I slid into the passenger seat, my mind already racing. "First, we gather all the evidence that's left. I've got a secure office back home, where I've been storing everything about their operation. After that, we confront them, and we won't show any mercy." Reese's grin was fierce as she started the car. "I like the way you think, Ethan. Let's make them regret crossing you." As we pulled out of the garage, a wave of determination swept over me. Sophia and Hawthorne had underestimated me. Now they were going to pay for it. I wouldn't stop until I got my version of justice, swift, ruthless, and final. The ride back to my house was tense. Every shadow seemed to hide a threat, but Reese handled the drive like a pro, her focus laser-sharp, a result of years spent working undercover. As we turned onto my street, I noticed something that made my blood boil. The sleek Aston Martin still parked in my driveway. "Nice car," I said, the sarcasm in my voice impossible to miss. Reese's expression tightened. "It was a gift," she said flatly, her tone giving nothing away. I clenched my jaw. "Yeah, from Sophia. Hawthorne sure knows how to keep his people happy." We parked a block away and approached the house quietly, using the cover of darkness and the neighboring homes to stay hidden. As we got closer, I saw her, Sophia, pacing inside, her silhouette framed by the living room window. She was on the phone, her movements frantic. "Looks like someone's nervous," Reese whispered. "What's the play?" I considered our options, weighing the risks. "We need that evidence. I'll create a distraction to get her out of the house. You sneak in and grab the data from my office. It's hidden behind a panel in the study, third bookshelf from the left. The book you're looking for is War and Peace. That's the trigger. And if she tries to stop me?" Reese asked, her tone even, but I could sense the weight behind her question. "Do what you need to," I said, my voice as cold as the air around us. "But leave her unharmed. I still need answers before this ends." With a silent nod, Reese slipped into the shadows, making her way around to the back of the house. I stood still for a moment, taking a deep breath to brace myself for what was about to happen. Then, without hesitation, I walked up to the front door and rang the bell. The door swung open, and the shock on Sophia's face was almost comical. She froze in place, her eyes wide. "Ethan, but how?" she stammered, clearly not expecting me to show up at her doorstep. I didn't waste time on pleasantries. I pushed past her, stepping into the house while scanning for any immediate threats. "Surprised to see me?" I asked with a smirk. "Sorry to ruin your little plans." Sophia quickly tried to recover, her face shifting from surprise to concern. "Ethan, thank God you're okay. I was so worried when I heard about the attack." I cut her off, my tone ice cold. "Save it. I know everything, Sophia, about Hawthorne and the secrets you've been selling. Did you really think you could hide this from me?" Her face turned pale, the mask she'd been wearing slipping. "Ethan, you don't understand. It's not what you think. Andrew. I spat his name like venom. "Oh, you're on a first-name basis with him now, huh? How sweet. I'm sure the new car he bought you was worth betraying your country. Worth betraying your husband." She glanced around the room, her eyes darting toward the windows like a trapped animal searching for an escape. "Please, let me explain. You're in danger, Ethan. Andrew has connections, resources you can't even begin to imagine." I stepped closer, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "I've faced worse than him, and I'm not alone in this." Her eyes flickered with confusion and concern. "What do you mean?" she asked, but before I could answer, a noise from upstairs broke the tension. Sophia's head snapped toward the sound. "What was that? Is someone else here?" I grabbed her arm to stop her from moving. "Doesn't matter. You're not going anywhere. It's time to face what you've done." Just then, Reese appeared at the top of the stairs, a small hard drive in hand. "Got it. We need to move," she said, her voice calm and focused. Sophia's eyes widened in recognition. You're the girl from the mall. Who are you? What are you doing in my house?" Reese ignored her, addressing me instead. "The area is still clear, but we shouldn't hang around. What do you want to do with her?" I thought for a moment, weighing my options. "She's coming with us," I finally said. "Hawthorne will be looking for her, and I need to know everything she knows." Sophia's voice trembled as she pleaded. "Ethan, please. You don't know what you're getting into. Andrew will come after us. He'll come after all of us." I tightened my grip on her arm, my voice low and menacing. "Let him come. But first, you're going to tell me everything. Every detail, every contact, every secret. And trust me, I'll know if you're lying." We hurried Sophia out of the house and toward the car. As we moved, I could see the dawning realization on her face. The woman I once loved had lied about everything. The life we'd built together had been nothing more than a sham. But I pushed those emotions down. There would be time for regret later. Right now, I had a job to do. Reese drove, her hands steady on the wheel as we navigated through the quiet streets. Sophia sat in the back seat, her face drawn and anxious. I kept my eyes on the rearview mirror, checking for any sign of pursuit. After a few moments of tense silence, Sophia finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe," I replied without turning to look at her. "Somewhere Hawthorne won't find us. At least, not until we're ready for him." As the city lights faded behind us, I felt an unfamiliar sense of calm and determination settle over me. The tables had turned, and now I was the one in control. Sophia and Hawthorne had no idea what was coming, and I planned to keep it that way until it was too late for them to stop me. The road ahead might be dark, but I was ready. They had tried to take everything from me. Now it was my turn. Hours later, I leaned against the wall of the safe house, watching Sophia as she paced back and forth across the small room. The daylight streaming through the windows made her restlessness even more obvious. She was unraveling, and I wasn't about to stop it. Let her feel a fraction of the tension and fear she'd caused. "You can't keep me here forever, Ethan," she finally said, her voice sharp with frustration. I didn't answer, my focus instead on the security monitors. The safe house was a fortress, layers of protection at every entrance. If Hawthorne's men came, they'd have a hell of a fight waiting for them. Reese's voice crackled through the radio. "Perimeter's clear. No movement within 5 miles. "Got it," I replied, my tone calm. "Stay sharp. They won't make it easy." I turned to face Sophia, her eyes burning with fury as she glared at me. "You don't know what you're up against, Ethan. Andrew will find us. And when he does—" I cut her off, stepping closer. "When he does, he'll wish he hadn't. He has no idea who he's crossed." My voice was ice cold, full of a promise I fully intended to keep. "Your boyfriend made a huge mistake using my wife to get to me," I said, my voice steady but cold. "And you? You made an even bigger mistake by agreeing to it." Sophia's face twisted with fury. "You think you're so much better than everyone else, don't you? Always the hero, the perfect soldier. Did you ever consider that maybe I wanted more than just being part of your life?" I felt a spark of anger, but pushed it down. This wasn't the time for emotion. "So, you decided to betray your country for a man who brings nothing but suffering and chaos? Was it worth it, Sophia? Was the promise of power worth destroying everything we built together?" For a brief moment, I saw a flicker of doubt in her eyes, but it was quickly replaced with defiance. "You don't get it, Ethan. Andrew offered me real power, something more than just existing in someone else's shadow. I had to take it." I couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh. "Power? You think that's what this is about? All you've done is put more weapons in the hands of killers. You've made sure innocent people will suffer. And you honestly believe Hawthorne cares about anyone but himself?" Before she could respond, my phone buzzed. The message was from an unknown number, but I recognized the code immediately. It was from my contact in the task force. "We found Hawthorne's private island. A major arms deal is going down in 48 hours. I felt a rush of excitement. This was it, the chance to bring Hawthorne down and dismantle everything he had built. I turned to Sophia with a cold, calculating smile. "Looks like your boyfriend's about to have a bad day." Her eyes widened with fear. "Ethan, please. You don't have to do this. We can still fix this somehow. Don't go after Andrew. He'll hurt you." I stepped closer, my voice low and unyielding. "No, Sophia. He'll try, but he'll fail. And when this is over, you'll both face the consequences." She started to plead again, but her words became nothing more than background noise as I mentally prepared for the task ahead. There was no room for hesitation now, no room for compassion. Hawthorne and his operation needed to be stopped, and I was ready to do whatever it took. Hours passed as I meticulously prepared. Every detail about Hawthorne's island, every contingency, every fallback plan had been burned into my mind. Our team was made up of elite operatives from various agencies, all united with one mission: to bring down one of the world's most notorious arms dealers. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about stopping a man who thrived on violence and profited from chaos. As night fell, I did a final sweep of the safe house. Sophia sat in silence, her defiance long gone, replaced by a resigned weariness. I felt nothing as I looked at her. The woman I once loved was now just a part of the mess I had to clean up. "I'm leaving," I said flatly. "When this is over, the authorities will come for you. Think about how you'll salvage what's left of your life." She looked up, her eyes tired and filled with regret. "Ethan, I'm sorry. For everything." I paused at the door, but didn't turn to face her. "Save it for the judge," I said. "Your apologies mean nothing to me now." With that, I stepped into the night, leaving behind the past and focusing solely on the mission ahead. The plan to reach Hawthorne's Island was a delicate operation, one that demanded precision and stealth. Our team used a submersible to approach under the cover of darkness, the water enveloping us in near silence. Every piece of gear felt familiar, a reminder of countless missions before this one. As we neared the shore, I signaled the team to surface. One by one, we emerged from the water, our dark wetsuits blending seamlessly into the night. The island loomed ahead of us, a shadowy silhouette under the stars. "Omega Team, report," I whispered into my earpiece, hearing the soft clicks confirming everyone was in position. "Delta Team ready and in position," came a hushed response from our sniper team, already covering key points around the compound. I took a deep breath, centering myself for what was to come. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about putting an end to Hawthorne's reign of terror. He had caused so much harm, so much destruction, and I was determined to see it end tonight. "Listen up," I spoke quietly but clearly into my comm. "Hawthorne is our priority. We take him alive if possible, but don't take any unnecessary risks. Anyone else is expendable. Is that understood?" A series of quiet affirmations came through the earpiece. I felt reassured knowing I was surrounded by some of the best operatives in the world. They knew the stakes, and they were ready to execute. "Let's move." We advanced through the thick jungle surrounding the compound, moving with practiced silence. Every sound was amplified in the darkness, the chirping of insects, the rustle of leaves. Years of training kicked in as we stayed alert, taking in every detail of our surroundings. I raised my hand, signaling the team to halt. Up ahead, through the trees, we spotted the first line of defense, a high wall topped with barbed wire, patrolled by armed guards. The challenge had begun. I signaled Delta Team to neutralize the guards silently. Two barely audible thuds broke the stillness of the night, and the guards dropped without a sound. Their bodies were quickly hidden by teammates, ensuring the area remained clear. "All clear," came the soft message through my earpiece. With the path secured, we advanced, scaling the wall with ease. Once over, the team split into pairs, each group heading to its designated entry point. Torres, my partner and a former elite operator, stayed close as we made our way to a side door. With practiced precision, he used his tools to unlock the door in seconds. We slipped inside, the cool, air-conditioned interior a stark contrast to the humid night outside. I motioned for Torres to take the lead, and we moved deeper into the building, following the layout we had memorized. The intel we had received was solid, and we navigated the twisting hallways without hesitation. As we neared Hawthorne's likely location, the sound of voices reached us, multiple languages mixed with the clinking of glasses. An important deal was underway. I tapped my communicator 3 times, the signal for the team to gather and prepare. Almost instantly, I felt the presence of my operatives positioning themselves around the room, ready to strike. On my mark, I whispered, 3, 2, 1, go. In an instant, chaos erupted. Flashbangs detonated, flooding the room with blinding light and deafening sound. We surged in, shouting commands in several languages. "FBI! Everyone on the ground! Interpol! Hands where we can see them!" Most of the people inside dropped to the floor, stunned by the sudden assault. A few tried to resist, but they were swiftly subdued. In the midst of the confusion, my eyes scanned the room, searching for one person, Andrew Hawthorne. I spotted him at the back, attempting to slip away in the chaos. Not this time. I pushed forward, dodging panicked bodies and overturned furniture. Hawthorne saw me coming, his eyes wide with fear. He turned to flee, but I was faster. I slammed into him, tackling him to the ground. He thrashed and landed a blow to my side, but I barely registered the pain. "This is it, Hawthorne," I growled, pinning him down. "You're finished." He continued to struggle, cursing and shouting in several languages. I tightened my grip, slapped handcuffs on him, and hauled him to his feet. Leaning in close, I spoke quietly, but with unmistakable menace. "You made a big mistake coming after me and my family. I hope it was worth it." For the first time, I saw true fear in his eyes. He had underestimated me, thinking he could manipulate Sophia to bring me down without consequence. But now, he understood he'd made a grave error. I shoved him toward Torres, who took control, leading him away as the rest of the team secured the remaining suspects and collected evidence. The mission had gone perfectly. As the adrenaline began to fade, I took a moment to survey the scene. Years of work, betrayal, and personal pain had led to this moment. Hawthorne's operation was dismantled. His buyers were in custody, and we now had valuable intel on his arms trafficking network. But I didn't feel joy, only a deep sense of satisfaction that justice had been served. There would be time to reflect later. For now, there was still work to do. I activated my comms. Omega-1 to HQ. Target secured. Hawthorne is in custody. Operation successful. The response came quickly. Copy that, Omega-1. Well done. Extraction team en route. Secure the area and prepare for debrief. I acknowledged the order and got back to work, overseeing the final stages of the operation. The night wasn't over, but the hardest part was behind us. Hawthorne's reign of terror was finished, and soon enough, Sophia would have to answer for her role in this mess. As I moved through the scene, watching as evidence was gathered and prisoners processed, I allowed myself a small, satisfied smile. They had tried to manipulate me, to use me for their own ends. Instead, they had sealed their own fate. Now they would face the consequences of their actions. The extraction went off without a hitch. Our team, along with the captured suspects, boarded the waiting helicopters. As the first light of dawn peeked over the horizon, we lifted off, leaving Hawthorne's Island behind. Soon, the place would be swarming with investigators combing through every scrap of evidence we had uncovered. The flight back to the mainland passed in a blur, exhaustion battling with the remnants of adrenaline still coursing through my veins. I managed a few moments of restless sleep, but my mind was too occupied with everything that had unfolded over the past few days. When we touched down at a secure military base, I was alert once more, ready for the next steps. Hawthorne was escorted away for interrogation. I wouldn't be allowed to sit in. My personal involvement made that clear, but that didn't bother me. My part was done. As I watched him disappear into the building, I felt a sense of finality. Hawthorne had thought he could destroy me, but all he had done was give me the motivation to bring him down. Now he would face justice, and Sophia, well, she would have to live with her choices. I had a mission to finish and a life to rebuild, and I felt no regret for any of the decisions I had made. As we prepared for debriefing, I stared out at the fading horizon, knowing that, for the first time in a long while, I was back in control of my future. I had more pressing matters to deal with than dwelling on the past. I made my way to the command center, where the task force leaders were gathering for a debrief. As I entered, I could feel eyes on me. Some glances were filled with respect, others with awe. Good. Let them see what happens when you cross the wrong person. Murphy, a veteran agent I'd worked with before, approached me with a nod. Great job out there, he said. Initial reports are in, and it looks like we got enough to keep Hawthorne locked up for a long time. His associates, too. I allowed myself a small, grim smile. That was exactly what I wanted to hear. What about the situation back at the safe house? I asked. Murphy's expression shifted, turning serious. We got a team en route. She'll be in custody within the hour. I nodded, feeling a cold sense of satisfaction settle in. I want to be there when they bring her in. Murphy hesitated for a moment, like he wanted to argue, but then he saw the look on my face and thought better of it. Okay, he agreed, though his tone was cautious. But stay back. You've done your job. Let the system handle the rest. I didn't respond. We both knew the system wasn't foolproof. People with power and influence could easily sway the course of justice. But I was determined to see this through. Sophia would face the consequences of her actions, one way or another. The drive to the safe house felt like it stretched on forever. By the time we arrived, local law enforcement and FBI agents had already secured the scene. My body was heavy with exhaustion, but my mind was sharp, clear. I stepped out of the SUV and made my way toward the house, knowing what was coming next. The front door swung open, and two agents emerged with Sophia between them, her hands cuffed behind her back. She looked smaller than I remembered, defeated, nothing like the confident woman who had once stood by my side. When her eyes met mine, I saw fear there, maybe even resignation. I stopped a few steps away, keeping my expression neutral. It's over, Sophia. Hawthorne's been taken down, and his entire operation is finished. She stared at me, her face pale, her eyes searching mine. After a long silence, she whispered, "What happens now?" Now! I felt the familiar anger rise within me, cold and unforgiving. Now, you face the consequences of your choices. Betrayal, conspiracy, it all catches up, Sophia. I hope it was worth it. Her shoulders sagged, and for a moment, she seemed like she might say something else. Ethan, I cut her off, my voice hard. I don't want to hear it. Not your excuses, not your apologies. You made your decision. Now you have to live with it. I turned my back on her, unwilling to face the woman who had torn our life apart. The agents led her to the waiting car, and as they closed the door, I heard her call out one last time. Ethan, please. I'm sorry for everything. But her words didn't reach me. The woman I had loved, the life we had built together, it was all gone, shattered by her betrayal. As the car pulled away, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. It wasn't entirely over. There were still meetings to attend, reports to file, but the hardest part was behind me. I had survived, and I had turned the tables on those who had sought to destroy me. Murphy walked over, his expression one of admiration. You did well, Corwin. Not many could have pulled this off. I nodded in acknowledgement, accepting the praise, but not dwelling on it. What's next? I asked, eager to keep moving. Murphy raised an eyebrow. Next, you've got a mountain of paperwork ahead of you. After that, I'd suggest taking a well-earned break. I shook my head. I don't need a break. I need to get back to work. He studied me for a moment, then nodded slowly. All right, I'll see what I can do. But listen, Corwin, take some time to think about everything. It's been a long road and not an easy one. I glanced out at the horizon, where the first hints of dawn were starting to appear. Murphy was right. It had been a long journey, but there was still more work to be done. Hawthorne was behind bars. Sophia would face the consequences of her betrayal. And I would keep moving forward. That's all I knew how to do. As Murphy walked away, I stood there, watching the sun rise higher in the sky. Reflect? There was nothing left to ponder. I had done what needed to be done. Nothing more, nothing less. Sophia and Hawthorne had made their decisions, and now they'd face the consequences. I, on the other hand, was ready for whatever came next. The betrayal had cut deep, but it had also set me free. No more divided loyalties or secrets hanging over my head. I was focused now, sharper than ever, and prepared for the next challenge. The following weeks flew by in a blur of court dates, legal meetings, and discussions with lawyers. I made sure that every piece of evidence against Sophia was airtight, ensuring that she would face the full consequences of her actions. The divorce process was swift and unrelenting. I made sure she wouldn't walk away with anything more than she deserved. I remained resolute. There was no room for regret or sorrow. Sophia and Hawthorne had made their choices, and now they were paying the price. I had already moved on, mentally preparing for the next chapter. Months passed, and as the chaos began to settle, I found myself in a new apartment in Rome. The Eternal City felt like the perfect place to begin this new phase of my life. The events of the past year had changed me in ways I was still discovering, but oddly enough, I had also found a sense of peace amidst the turmoil. One quiet evening, my phone rang. It was the secure line I used for work. I answered immediately. "Corwin," a familiar voice said on the other end. It was my contact from the agency. "We've got a situation in Buenos Aires. We need someone with your skills. You interested?" A surge of excitement hit me. The thrill of a new mission was always intoxicating. From the brief details I was given, I knew this would be big, possibly bigger than anything I'd handled before. Without hesitation, I accepted. "A car will be there in 6 hours." As I packed my bag, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. The man staring back was different from the one who had navigated the turmoil of the past few months. I was harder now, more resolute, but I also felt lighter, more certain of who I had become. The betrayal that once weighed me down had ultimately freed me. I was no longer burdened by secrets or conflicted emotions. I knew exactly who I was: a fighter, a protector, and someone to be reckoned with. Boarding the plane to Buenos Aires, I felt the familiar buzz of anticipation. Whatever challenges awaited, I was ready. My past was behind me, and I had learned from it. The future stretched out before me, filled with possibility and purpose. As the plane gathered speed and lifted off, I settled into my seat with a small, determined smile. The journey was starting again, but this time, I was in full control. Sophia's betrayal and Hawthorne's threats were nothing more than distant memories now. I had risen above them, and the path ahead looked bright and full of promise.